He bullied me so bad that I was shaking and I couldn't go to school for 6 weeks. It scared me and it scared everybody in my family.
It's just not cool because other kids don't get to be bullied. I'm the only one that gets to be bullied because I'm different. It felt kind of awful.
You know, she was just such a good person. She didn't deserve that. I don't want any other family to experience loss like my family has.
However you feel right now, your life is meaningful, and you have to really believe that. You owe it to society and the world to talk to somebody and to share with them your feelings.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this half-hour special program, Bullying, Ending the Torment. I'm your host, Nancy Byrne. We are coming to you from the historic 5th Street School. And you know, it's possible back in the day when this did function as a school instead of a gallery and special events center, you might have found a schoolyard bully or two, but certainly not to the extent we see bullying today. It is estimated that 3.2 million students are bullied in this country each and every day. And social media? Well, that's just enabled the bulliers to follow their victims home, a place where kids are supposed to feel safe. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to take a look at this issue, and we're also going to take a look at some steps being taken in this community to stand up to the bullies. We start with 4 stories by 4 young men and women. 2 of the victims are here to tell their story, 2 are not.
Well, 3rd grade was a very hard year for me because there was so much bullying at the school I went to. And he would always bully me. Like, first it was with words, and then it moved on to physical, and then it got to one day he came up behind me and choked me from behind.
By the time we got to early January, he didn't want to go to school anymore. I suspected immediately that he was being bullied, and I asked him that. He told me no.
I didn't want to tell him because I don't want him to go make a big commotion at the school. Like, I know my dad would because he's very protective of me.
He would wake up having seizures, was what it looked like. And he'd just be laying in bed shaking, and he would be shaking so bad that he couldn't brush his teeth, he couldn't eat cereal, he couldn't even get ready to go to school.
He bullied me so bad that I was shaking and I couldn't go to school for 6 weeks. And it scared me and it scared everybody in my family.
We ended up taking him to doctors. He went to a cardiologist, he went to a neurologist, he had an MRI. He was like 8 years old, being stuffed into an MRI machine because they were afraid that he had some like catastrophic neurological disorder.
We went to doctors a lot before we finally figured out it was stress. We got in this huge fight out in the field, and then it ended up with him and I in a stare down, and then he backed off and walked off, and that was just one of the hardest days of my life.
The change in Zachary was immediate after he stood up to this kid. By the end of the school year, he had kind of appointed himself an advocate for the bullied. Sorry, I'm gonna start crying now. He not only stood up to his bully, but he started standing up to other bullies that are bullying other kids.
To the bullies out there, I mean, you guys need to stop because it's hurting our school district because so many kids are staying home from school because they're scared because of bullies, and that's makes me sad.
My daughter Brittany passed away when she was 19 by suicide. She was, allegedly there was some stories out that she had been bullied and cyberbullied, whatever it may have been. Unfortunately, I'm unaware of all of the details because they haven't been shared with me. About 2 months after she was there, she started needing to go to therapy, and she needed to be put on medication for her depression. And my child has never been depressed, as far as I knew. And my oldest daughter, Ashley, had told me that she was not being treated well by her stepmother, mostly. Her father adored her, but her stepmother was not treating her like she was treating the other children. Everything, according to Ashley, was wonderful. Brittany was excited to come out and to visit and go to the beach. She loved the water. She was very much a beach baby, so she was ready to come out and visit and to be a part of my oldest daughter's wedding. Everything was great. And then 12 hours later, we got the call that Brittany had passed away by suicide. A lot of the parents that I've talked to said that their children have had a moment of clarity where they just kind of became themselves again. And they wanted to go and do things, and they wanted to spend time with their families, and they wanted to. One parent told me that her son came to her and said, "I want to go to church with you on Sunday." And then that next day he took his own life. So it's like, to me, I look at it as like a moment of clarity, like they think, okay, everything's gonna be okay now. But it's not. It's not. I always tell children, you know, if you are a victim of bullying, if you know someone who's being bullied, if you know someone who's bullying, you need to tell someone, whether it's parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever it might be, somebody who you trust.
They didn't know me. I think they bullied me because they didn't know, because they say any type of excuse. They'll say any type of excuse. It's kind of mean or whatever. It's kind of rude, I think.
Jackson, in his 6th grade year, was bullied. He was just being bullied. When he came into our program. You know, he was quiet. He didn't speak. He had absolutely no friends at all. I had a conversation about bullying, and it went around the room. I went to every single kid, and I made sure that he was the last kid.
Dwayne was talking about the bullying thing, and I started crying because I felt left out, because I knew that I was the one who got bullied. It was not cool. I said, it's just not cool because other kids don't get to be bullied. I'm the only one that gets to be bullied because I'm different.
When it got to Jackson, he was telling his story of how he got picked on. He's been picked on all his life, per se, really never had any real friends, and he gets picked on every day, and he just got picked on the way coming to the room. So when he told his story about that, I literally looked around the entire room and all the kids were in tears. They're all crying. You know, I sit up there and let him know that everyone in this room now, that's what Smuller Card is. We're all friends here. During his 8th grade year, Jackson had so many friends at his middle school that he was actually the mascot.
Dwayne really helped me a lot because I was his #1 friend. He says that's what he said. I was his #1 friend.
Oh my gosh, Haley was incredibly remarkable, you know, smart. She never got a grade below an A. She was the only student in her elementary school to get a perfect score on the proficiency exam. She liked to bake and cook too. You know, there'd be several nights when she would ask if she could make dinner for the entire family, and she liked to bake desserts and decorate them herself. And we have a very close family, and Haley's relationship with me, you know, epitomized Daddy's little girl. And if it could happen to our family and it could happen to Haley, it could happen to anyone. Well, she was bullied at school. It was repeated verbal abuse. I met with State Senator David Parks and Assemblywoman Ellen Spiegel, who happen to be my representatives, but they've also been champions of bullying efforts. David Parks, since 2001, been real instrumental in crafting the laws that we have now. And so I reached out to them, and they were very receptive and shared my concern that additional changes needed to be made. We reached out to the governor's office for help as well. And he saw the need for change and what a big problem bullying has become in Clark County and the state of Nevada. And he only gets 5 bills, and there's over 1,000 of them heard this past session, so he saw the importance of it and decided to dedicate one of his bills to this. They would run laps in PE, and then whoever came in last would have to run an additional lap. And Haley's friend was having some health issues, so Haley purposely lagged behind so that her friend wouldn't finish last and be punished with an additional lap. It comes from Haley's heart. She was just such a good person. She didn't deserve that, and I don't want any other family to experience loss like my family has. It's a terrible
Well, let's face it, bullying is not new, but what is new is social media's role in bullying. Twitter, Facebook, the internet, all just more tools for the tormentors, leaving their victims feeling as though there is no escape. So I have one last personal story to share with you. This young lady was cyberbullied by an anonymous bully. Now, fortunately, the police stepped in and the bully was stopped. Now, this courageous young lady wants to share her story in the hopes of helping others. But it almost didn't end this way.
And it was just all these random people deciding I was a good target.
We had no idea that this was going on, and she was being bullied at school as well as cyberbullying. So we had as parents, we had really no indication, and it had been going on for quite a while.
I got really sad, and I just got a really bad mental state and decided that I don't deserve to live anymore. I sent I'm leaving bye to some of my friends then, and one of them called the police and my parents, and then I was taken to the hospital to make sure nothing fatal happened. I know who some were, but you can't ever be positive unless you see them physically on the account.
When she was continued to be bullied, she would share some of those things with me, and I took them to the police. And the police they got a warrant issued, or a subpoena issued to Instagram, and were able to track down where the text came from. So the police went to that person's house, and it was another girl, and talked to her mother, who had no idea her daughter was doing this. And so the police will get involved and help and deal with situations to try to stop the bullying. When we did that, I think that helped Amy, our daughter, feel like she had a support system. It's not just her, and us, against the world. The police are on our side, and that is a very empowering, feeling to have. The law enforcement will be there to help you.
course, like blocking them and making sure that they can't comment on your posts or whatever, and like to keep a strong mindset and just focus on what you think is good about you. You can like just always get through it if you have the right people to go to and all that. And if it gets bad to like where you're harming yourself or having really bad thoughts, to go to parents or professional help.
You may have noticed that in all 5 of those stories, not one of the victims was comfortable coming to their parents and telling them they were being bullied. They all had different reasons. Some were afraid parents would show up at the school and make matters worse. Some were simply embarrassed. Regardless, this is a conversation that needs to be had so the problem can be solved. So we decided to give you some signs that you can look for as a parent, an aunt, a neighbor, a loved one that may indicate a child is being bullied, so that you can open those doors of conversation. For most students, scenes like this represent learning, socializing, and participating in sports and activities. But for a student who's being bullied, these very same images muster up feelings of isolation, fear, and intimidation. These are feelings that are very difficult for most kids to share verbally with parents and loved ones. But while they may choose to not speak about being bullied, there are other ways they do communicate. And if you observe them closely, you can see silent cries for help.
Well, you're going to look for actions of them feeling depressed, sadness, loneliness. Look for them maybe having some health problems or health complaints. You can possibly see academics decrease during that time, and just a feeling of them being alone and not talking as much. Some kids do not want to go to school. They'll try to stay out of that situation, so that is another area or a sign that they're trying to stay away from the situation.
Brandon Mueller is Assistant Director of the Clark County School District's Equity and Diversity Department. He says seeing any of those signs is an indication parents need to gently open the door to communication. Often when that door is opened, the information flows.
So getting that communication built up with your kids is big. Ask them what happened during the day. What are the good things that happened during the day? What are some things that happened in the classroom, at recess, that were fun? Get them talking about situations. Then you'll learn more about their day and what happened.
If a child opens up, he says, act on it immediately.
I think the biggest thing is make sure you get all the facts. And that's, again, sitting down, really going through the process of what happened, when did it happen, who was involved, getting those facts out. And then making sure that, again, you report that to the teacher, the counselor, the administrator of the school, so they can begin the investigation and really determine what is going on.
Make sure to save any evidence, photograph any marks on your child, save cyberbullying texts, Facebook posts, or emails. The new anti-bullying legislation, SB 504, signed by Governor Brian Sandoval in the spring, tightens the rules on how schools in Nevada must deal with reports of bullying.
It was a lot more inclusive in this law. It talked about a lot more steps that need to be involved for us as school sites to make sure that we report on the same day and that we follow through with investigations, which we're doing, and updating our policy. And it gives a lot more emphasis on what could be considered bullying, which is very encompassing right now.
The district has a Say No to Bullying website where parents or students can report bullying anonymously. And there's also an effort underway to get all students to step up and defend anyone being bullied.
It's a theme that we have out there that we're telling everyone to be an upstander, because one of the biggest things that we're seeing in bullying is if a situation occurs, we have a lot of bystanders, people that stand around and don't intervene, which is basically supporting the bullying action. We really want to get people to stand up and say, you know what, don't do that. I need to report this. You need to stop. That's not what we do at the school or in society.
The ultimate goal is to get the message out loud and clear. To anyone who thinks bullying is okay, even cool, it's not. And it's not going to be tolerated by the schools or the kids who attend our schools. Before we go any further, we want to thank everyone who came forward to tell their story. We know that your bravery and your graciousness is going to make a difference in lives. You know, now that the conversation of bullying and cyberbullying has moved out of the shadows and into the spotlight, conversations are spawning anti-bullying programs that really are making a difference. Now, there are many in our community, including the city's own Safe Key program, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But first, earlier we touched on another program called Symbolic Art. It is the brainchild of two inspiring inspiring young men who wanted children to have a place to go and express themselves through art, whether that be painting, dancing, even sports. And what happens is you get kids from all walks of life, or cliques, coming together and discovering each other's similarities instead of differences, and they form a bond. It just might remind you a little bit of a classic movie from the 1980s.
Yeah, well, he's got a name.
Yeah?
Yeah. What's your name?
Brian,
See?
my condolences.
What's your name?
What's yours?
Claire.
Claire?
Claire, it's a family name.
Oh, it's a fat girl's name.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm not fat.
Well, not a present.
Ah, yes, The Breakfast Club. At the beginning of the film, you see 5 kids from 5 different worlds and figure there's no way in the world they will ever become friends. But as they look at life through each other's eyes, they begin to understand the roads that led each one to becoming the person they are. And their differences become less odd and annoying and more understandable and even interesting. Think of symbolic art as a sort of modern-day Breakfast Club. Now, unlike the movie, they're not here to fulfill a day of detention. These students are here because they want to be. It's a fun and interesting program that allows kids of all ages and backgrounds to fine-tune the artist inside them and express themselves openly through their art, whether that be painting or athletics. And because everyone is welcome here, the end result is that stereotyping and bullying are not welcome here. Acceptance is the rule. In fact, in recent years, a program was developed within symbolic art that directly addresses anti-bullying. It's called Eyes Up on Bullying. Eyes Up is an acronym for Every Youth, Every Student, Upholding Peace.
The concept was to empower those school ambassadors, those who are participating in school clubs like the basketball, football, clubs, whatever. Those are the popular kids, and so the Eyes Up concept is to bring them and those who are not so popular and allow them to blend together so there's not much distinction. And that's what symbolic art does. It brings all children together in one group in the symbolic art community, and so that creates a common bond.
And what we realize about symbolic art is that the kids from 6th, 7th, 8th grade, when they're in school, they usually don't talk to each other. But when they're in our after-school program, they become friends. So it changes the whole dynamic of them being in school, because now they have more friends than they would normally have.
If it sounds too good to be true, rest assured, it's not. Jackson Renner says he was bullied every day before joining symbolic art after school. Like so many other kids, he found acceptance and a way to use one of his talents to stop the bullying and start making friends.
But the craziest thing is that I started dancing. I learned how to dance and blend in and try to get their attention. That's how I got away from bullying.
He'd come out to the dances and he'd start to dance a little bit, but he wouldn't want to because there'd be kids like, oh, look at Jackson. I go, Jackson, don't worry about them. Just dance, be yourself, and always be you. Whenever you want to have a good time with us, you have a good time. And I just opened up a door for him, so he didn't worry about the kids picking at him. If he was the only one dancing at the party, he was the only one dancing at the party, and we'll cheer him on. Don't worry about it.
Dwayne and Al say once he made real friends here, the bullies backed off at school.
But now they realize that he has friends. He has people that really care about him, and it just changed everything about him.
I'm making a mega.
This reminds me of How to Train a Dragon.
These two incredible men are passionate, but very modest about what they do for these kids. But in reality, they are not only enriching lives, in more cases than they may ever know, they are saving lives. According to the Centers for Disease Control, suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for youth between 10 and 24 years of age. And according to the American Medical Association, kids who are bullied are more than twice as likely to consider suicide. By bringing kids of all backgrounds together and making them all feel accepted, there's a unified spirit here.
So there's not the extra strong person and the weak kid separated. They're all together, and we celebrate everyone.
They have 2 messages to send out to kids of all ages. One for anyone who's being bullied, especially if they're thinking suicide could be the answer.
The world won't be the same without you, and so you have to recognize that you matter. You make a difference, and your life, however you feel right now, your life is meaningful. And you have to really believe that. And because you believe it's meaningful, you owe it to society and the world to talk to somebody and to share with them your feelings.
The other message is to the bullies.
A lot of it comes from just being angry. A lot of people are angry about a lot of different things. It can be from home life, it can be from school, it can be relationships, it can be anything. But at some point in time, you're going to have to realize that the people around you, you're either going to have people stop hanging around you, you'll be by yourself, and being by yourself is a lonely world.
It's not our intention to bully the bully. I think they need a hug.
A hug maybe, and certainly an environment like this where labels are set aside and acceptance is the only acceptable way to live.
Give me some of that, buddy.
If you'd like more information, you can go to symbolicartcenter.com. By the way, Alan Duane didn't just come up with this Eyes Up on Bullying. They worked with a lot of organizations in our community, including Nevada Child Seekers, the school district, and Metro Police. In fact, it was Metro who directed us to Symbolic Art Center as a good example of anti-bullying. Well, as we mentioned earlier, our own Safe Key program is another great program. It's a before and after school program that saw this bullying issue coming a long time ago. They implemented a special section in their training to address bullying. They don't just train their staff, they train their kids to know that bullying is just not cool.
So what we've noticed through the training that has been provided both to the kids and to the staff, you see kids stepping up and saying things like, that's not cool, or taking the initiative to helping that child with the differences or the disability blend in without us having to ask. It is truly priceless to see kids build character, and you know that they're going to be productive in society and do some amazing things, and that's exciting to be a part of.
For more information on Safe Key, you can go to lasvegasnevada.gov. So what about Clark County School District as a whole? Well, it and all school districts across Nevada are now required to adhere to new legislation signed by Governor Brian Sandoval in the spring of 2015, SB 504, or as many refer to it as Haley's Law. You heard Haley's story a little bit earlier when her father, Jason Lamberth, was on our program. He and other concerned parents had a big hand in getting this passed. So what does it really mean? Well, we turn to Clark County Superintendent Pat Skorkowski for more details.
First and foremost, we have to notify the parents within 24 hours of the allegation being brought forward, whether they're the victim or the aggressor in this situation, alleged aggressor. And then we have to conduct an investigation. We have to get back to the parents within 10 days with a written report and follow-up, as well as providing resources for their students to be able to understand what's happening to them and potentially get some help if they need some additional help in the situation.
SB 504 also set up a 24-hour hotline, as well as the Center for Safe and Respectful Learning within the Nevada Department of Education, among many other things. We feel like we've just scratched the surface on this issue, but the good news is there's so many resources out there. We have 3 websites to get you started that were recommended to us to recommend to you. Just head to your computer and pull up stopbullying.gov and stopitcyberbully.com. There's another one called connectsafely.org. This one specifically talks about the dangers of sexting as well. I know it's kind of hard to believe, but we really can stop bullying. However, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take schools taking swift action against bullies, parents having frank and honest discussions with their children, and children who are being bullied telling someone they trust, as well as students who aren't being bullied, standing up for the ones who are. Thank you so much for joining us for this half-hour special. We hope it was informational to you. It's going to be seen many more times here on KCLV Channel 2. For program times, you can go to kclv.tv, or you can follow us on YouTube. Thanks again for joining us.